Greetings, Internet friends. You've just caught me returning once again from a brief time-traveling stint, this time in the world of 1992. I just picked up the latest issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, which has a feature on the upcoming release, Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2. So all the Sega Genesis owners are really happy about that one. That's going to be a big release. Of course, the 16-bit console wars are in full swing, so Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis are duking it out. There's lots of great games coming out for both of those systems. Just in this issue, we've got previews for Super Star Wars, Phantasy Star 4, and Streets of Rage 2. So lots of good games coming out. There's even some good games that just got released. We've got Konami's Axlay in here, the EGM review crew, those guys. You know, Sushi X. You remember him, right? Yeah, we all remember him. Anyway, Axlay got a 9998 in this issue, so that's an excellent score. You should check that out. Out of This World, the Super Nintendo release of that game just got an 8998, so a couple of good games there. Also, as usual, you've got Gaming Gossip brought to you by Quarterman. This is, back before we had the internet, this is how we got all our gaming gossip. Now it's 24-hour non-stop idiocy online. But back in the day, you had to get a one-page layout of idiocy in Electronic Gaming Monthly. So let's see what the Quarterman has to say about the future of gaming. Let's see here. Let's pick one. This is a good one right here. Atari's Jaguar is now readying for full-out production, with designs for nearly 24 softs. That's what they tried to call games for a while, softs, short for software. Nearly 24 softs, now in the starting stages. The machine will take gamers into visual regions previously uncharted on home or arcade games. So the best-looking games you've ever seen in your entire life, whether in the arcades or at home, are coming to the Atari Jaguar. So get ready for that. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. You're not gonna be able to handle it. Best graphics ever. And graphics equal fun. As we all know, that's what this generation has taught us. The better the graphics, the better the game. So anyway, of course, with this episode, we're going to do what we did last time from 1991 episode. We're going to look at some of the print ads that we've got here. Some really fantastic stuff from the entire year of 1992. We've got a lot of stuff to go through. We'll just keep time traveling back and forth. 1991 we're done with. We'll do 1993 next time. And, at Space-Time Continuum, it's all going to be fine. I mean, paradox schmaradox. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Anyway, let's take a look at some fabulous video game ads.
So we'll start off with an ad for a game called James Pond 2, codename Robocod, which cashes in on not only the James Bond name, but Robocop as well, which was popular at the time. And in this ad, we have a very tall James Pond leaning up against the soda fountain with a milkshake in his hand, because he can't very well be at a bar with a martini. And he's saying, can you fly, can you drive, can you stretch up high, can you ... And down below him we have what is very obviously Sonic the Hedgehog dashing away off the side of the ad with his little pointy blue hair disappearing off the side. And he's saying, no, I'm out of here. And the tagline for the ad is, speed isn't everything. And it's a little bit of a strange ad because this is the ad for the Sega Genesis version of James Pond 2. So Electronic Arts is the publisher here, and they're basically saying, hey, you've got a Sega, and you know how much you hate Sonic the Hedgehog because he's completely terrible compared to James Pond. To look at how inept he is, he can't fly or drive. Well, he drives today, but he couldn't drive back then. I don't know why he drives, since he can run at like 700 miles an hour, but hey, that's another story. Anyway, they're saying, you don't need that Sonic game. Come buy James Pond, because just Sonic isn't good enough. Next up, we have a 4-pack of games. As advertised, it's 4 terrific games for the price of 1. This is the Quattro Sports series. It's a 4-pack of sports games. There's also an action game series and a bunch of other 4-packs. And the thing is being pimped out by a guy named Thor Ackerland. And this guy won a thing called the Nintendo World Championships in 1990. A bunch of people competed in playing Super Mario Brothers and Rad Racer and Tetris. And so he won that. And Camerica, who basically makes unlicensed Nintendo games, snagged him so that he could advertise their stuff. So it's a 4-pack of games, and as is the case with most 4-packs, there's not really many. There's not good 4-packs. When you have an all-in-one, they're pretty much notoriously terrible. Okay, I guess there's that one good one, but otherwise, if you see a single cartridge with a whole bunch of games on it, yeah, you're probably going to want to steer clear. Just got that one good one. This next one is an advertisement for the Consumer Electronics Show in 1992, which took place in Chicago. And what's kind of odd about this is it's in a video game magazine, and it's aimed at the game players, mostly, young folks that have been playing games. And it's basically saying how cool it is. It's a combination of Disney World, Epcot Center, which is kind of strange because Epcot Center is in Disney World, the World's Fair, Hollywood, Woodstock, Broadway, Smithsonian, the Land of Oz. All of these great things together, but it's a trade show, so it's not open to the public, which means almost every single person who's seeing this ad and going, man, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to go. You can't go. It's not open to you. Sucks to be you. Too bad. Next up, we have an ad for Heavy Nova, and the advertisement here is that Heavy Nova has sold so well that they're out. You can't buy them in the stores. Everybody is out of stock. I don't know how that happened because this is a really terrible game. Maybe people thought they were buying a Robert Palmer album, but this game is not simply irresistible. I feel very sorry for all the poor bastards who got duped into buying this one. It's awful.
This isn't mine. No. I'm holding it for a friend. He doesn't want anybody to know he has it. That's not mine. That's not mine.
We have one thing to say about Contra 3 for the Super NES. Boom. So this is a pretty impressive ad. Contra 3 was one of the very first releases for the Super Nintendo, and this ad has a lot of great screenshots in there, and it really shows off the technology for the system, because at this point probably most people didn't own a Super Nintendo, and this shows the side-scrolling stuff with huge bosses, some of the top-down stuff. It's a really just a technically interesting ad, and it's pretty exciting. It takes place over 3 pages. You've got a black page with white text leading up to the 2-page spread of Boom with all the screenshots and some game details. So this is a pretty interesting ad from Konami. We also have an ad for Kid Chameleon, which is another interesting one because Kid Chameleon's a little bit harder to wrap your mind around. So Contra, people had played a Contra game up to that point. A lot of people had. Kid Chameleon is a little bit different. It is a side-scrolling action platformer, but the kid's abilities change depending on what type of helmet he picks up. So there's a little information here detailing the different forms that he can transform into. And it also has in the advertising that there are over 100 levels and 1,800 screens, which is really impressive. That's a great selling point. What they don't tell you is that this game has no way to save your game. So playing through 100 consecutive levels takes a really long time. Even a short playthrough of this game, even if you take some warps and skip around some of the levels, even a short game is about 4 hours long. Here we have a software, etc. ad with little entry form up there. You can enter to win a Sega letter jacket. And you too can be Captain S. He is one hell of a guy. So you know how much I love it when they have live actors playing in video game ads. This one is for a game called Arch Rivals, which was it's a port of an arcade game where it's a basketball game, but you can actually punch the other players in the face. And here we've got the guy, he's climbing up on the basketball hoop to escape all the crazy players. It almost looks like he's being stripped to death by zombies, I think. It's like they're trying to tear his clothes off. That's what's happening. And there are no fewer than 5 instances of the words basket brawl appearing in this ad. So they came up with a interesting slogan, and that was about it. They just used it again and again and again. And again. 5 agains. So you remember in our 1991 video game ads episode, we talked about the GamePro magazine, which featured Battletoads, which is just being released on the NES. And apparently it did pretty well because it won the 1991 Nintendo Power Nestor Award. Sadly, Nestor is no more. Heck, Nintendo Power is no more. You can't get a subscription to that, and they won't mail you any more magazines. So the days of a claymation Super Mario Brothers 2 on your cover are long, long gone. This next one's pretty interesting. It's an ad for a game called Power Punch 2. This was originally supposed to be a sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and it would have had Iron Mike going up against aliens and that sort of thing. But around about the time the game was supposed to come out, Kid Dynamite started doing more raping than boxing, and Nintendo said goodbye to him as he was carted off to jail, and they severed their ties with the game. The developer kept working on it. They just swapped out somebody else for Mike Tyson, and it still came out. It's not a great game. Fortunately, the Punch-Out series has continued to go on and have many good games released down the line. Even though they got nothing to do with Tyson anymore, the Punch-Out series lives on. And so does Tyson. His career sort of goes on. Next is Super Strike Eagle. You've seen dogfighting. Now experience super dogfighting. That's amazing. So somewhere along the line, McDonald's decided to get in on the video game craze, and they released several pretty decent video games. Not, obviously, McDonald's wasn't sitting around programming them. They'd like Hamburglers and they're typing away. But, they farmed these out to some different developers, and we had Mick and Mac as the global gladiators, and their Mac is presumably for the Big Mac. Mick, I'm actually don't know. That's a little racist, probably. Anyway, so Mick and Mac, they go on a multiracial journey to fight slime people or something like that. Anyway, halfway decent game, just interesting because it's McDonald's behind it. Next up, we have some of my absolute favorite Nintendo merchandise. Now, these days, you can get Mario figures and, all kinds of different video game figures, and they all look pretty much the same. Ever since we had Mario in 3D, there's sort of a 3D model of what Mario should look like, so all the toys pretty much look the same. But back in the 80s and 90s when Mario was in 2D and you wanted to make toys or anything, any type of merchandise, it was, 2D Mario is a little bit of an abstract character, so you had to add details that weren't necessarily there. A lot of the details for these came from the original, Donkey Kong games in the arcades, but I really love tracking down a lot of this old merchandise because it's sort of an off-model version of Mario. And, he's just a little over-exaggerated and cartoony compared to what you usually see him as today. Next is Superman. Kryptonite not included. Really, Sunsoft. Kryptonite not included. Kryptonite, it kills Superman. So why would there be kryptonite? Of course, there's not going to be any kryptonite. Hey, it's Superman. Oh, look, and he brought kryptonite with him. That was very thoughtful, Superman. Thanks. Oh, are you feeling okay? Can I get you some soup or something? You look kind of bad. All right, next is a 2-pack here of advertising for Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, 2 very different games. They came out around about the same time in the U.S., and I just wanted to bring this ad up because it has prices in it. And Final Fantasy II, you can see the regular price there is $69.99 in 1992. So people today complain about the prices of their video games, but $69.99 in 1992 money, that's a bunch of money. That's in 2012 money, that's like $115. You would have to mow a lot of lawns to work up that much money. That's a lot of time and effort to save up for a video game. Now, granted, it's worth it. Final Fantasy II, it's an outstanding game. It's totally worth doing probably a year's worth of manual labor. I don't know about that. It's a good game. You should play it. There's a lot going on in this ad for Wonder Dog. Wonder Dog was one of the very first games available on the Sega CD, so just like the ad for Contra 3 on the Super Nintendo, a lot of what they're trying to do here is showcase what the system can do, like what you can get on the Sega CD that you can't get anywhere else. In fact, even the ad says, check out the future of arcade action gaming. You're bound to CD difference. Huh? CD difference? I didn't. It's right there. So even like the screenshots, it's mostly gameplay, but there's one from the one of the cinematics, one of the animated cinematics that are in the game. And over in the upper right, there's a star that says, more graphics, enemies, pickups, hidden zones, invisible items. I'm not really sure invisible items is a point in its favor, but hey, it's got invisible items. Music tracks, sound effects, and high-wire arcade gameplay than a cart could ever hold. So ultimately, it's basically it's a 2D side-scrolling action game. It's sprite-based. It's not doing a whole lot more than you could actually get on a cartridge. One of the biggest manufacturers of third-party controllers was a company called ASCII, and they had a whole series of advertisements. They had this ad series where there's a kid playing with one of their controllers, and half of his body he's a normal kid, and the other half he's some sort of crazy punk, like I don't know, he's like a biker with a leather jacket and spikes and everything like that. And then there's one with the guy's got a lightning bolt on his face and kind of leopard skin print shirt. I think that's supposed to mean that he's half really hardcore. He's turning. I don't really know what it means. ASCII also created the successor to the NES Advantage. So back in the day on the NES, the main arcade stick, the big stick that was out there was the NES Advantage. It was a Nintendo product, had a stick, had the 2 buttons, but it had turbo buttons as well, which were really handy. And then ASCII worked with Nintendo. It's an officially licensed Nintendo product on the Super Advantage. Sadly, it is not compatible with the Statue of Liberty. Only the original NES Advantage can do that.
So the ASCII controllers might have looked a little bit strange compared to the other stuff that was on the market, the first-party stuff, but for a long time I actually preferred having the arcade stick controllers. Coming from the arcades, I was used to a joystick and a couple of buttons, so when Nintendo revolutionized controllers with the little D-pad and the 2 buttons, I actually struggled with that for several years. So I had an NES Advantage. When the Sega Genesis came out, I actually had that ASCII arcade stick that's in the ad. And for the Super Nintendo, I have the ASCII pad for that. I bought one of these brand new back in the day for the Super Nintendo, and I used it so much that some of the buttons stopped working. So a few years ago, I found another one of these used in a game store and picked one up. This is actually my main controller. When I'm playing games on the Super Nintendo, this is what I'm using. It has lots of switches on it. So you've got slow motion. Of course, that's on almost all of these sorts of controllers. And then you have switches with 3 settings each. So there's one for regular, and then there's one for turbo. So if you hold it down, you've got a turbo function. And then there's one, the far right setting is for auto. So you can set the button to just always be on turbo fire without having to press the button. Comes in handy in a handful of games. Definitely, Super Nintendo days, having those turbo buttons really, really could help you with some of those games. So that's what I do. I can't make the super crazy face that's in the ad with the half mutant crazy kid, provided I don't have a stroke right now in the middle of the video. No, it didn't happen.
And there was no shortage of third-party controllers back in the 8 and 16-bit days, all of which promised to just increase your game, make it all better, including this one. This is the Game Handler, which is apparently a controller that's so dark you can't even see the whole thing. And the big selling point here is it's a one-handed controller. It's even got a pinky button down there at the bottom, which looks like it might be a little uncomfortable. But hey, you can play it with one hand, and apparently it's got motion sensors in there, so it tells which way you're tilting the thing. It's motion sensors in a controller. What will they think of next? It's amazing. So there's an asterisk at the top of the ad, and the asterisk takes you to the place where all the wonderful stuff happens. So this is how this game handler is going to change your life. So it says, warning, the game has changed. Game handler actually changes, and it's changes in quotation marks. So it doesn't actually change, but the game handler changes the pre-existing software you already own. Now, with Game Handler, not only are your games more challenging, but they're more interesting and more fun, too. Do moves you never thought possible before. Make Mario run backwards in Super Mario Bros. 1, and turtles disappear in TMNT 2. That's what I usually use my controllers for. It's for magic tricks or something. I don't know. And many more secret tricks for you to explore and discover. We'll even send you a videotape showing you how to do some of these tricks, plus a newsletter to update new tricks found by our game players like you! Exclamation point. Well, dang. I guess you need to buy one of these, because it's flat out amazing. Similar to that is the one-handed controller called the Grip It. And this one is amazing because it works on the NES and the Genesis. It has a little adapter on there, so if you own both systems, the Nintendo and the NES and the Genesis, you can use this controller for both. Of course, it doesn't have a C button. It has A and B. So, if you have a Genesis and you only use 2 of the buttons, you're going to want this. I wonder what they'll do when that 6-button controller comes out. It is amazing. And, of course, it advertises no more thumb fatigue. No more thumb fatigue. I think a lot of controllers advertise that. Yeah. Next up, we have the stealth controllers, which look like a really dumb jet. It's a stick with buttons on it. It's got an American flag on the front of it. The Sega Genesis pad has an American flag on it. And they advertise designed in the USA. Although they're made in Korea, because that company Dow down there, they're Korean. But they're designed in America, and the design's awful. I'll just tell you right now. That really, really sucks. Next, we have a series of ads for a controller called the Turbo Touch 360, and all of these ads they're all about what they promise to do to make your game better. And I've actually used one of these, and it's a sensor. So instead of a D-pad, it has a sensor, so you don't have to press down to move. And it's not terribly precise. It's not a great controller, so you can use it, but you're going to lose some precision in doing it. But hey, don't listen to me. Here's what the experts have to say about this wonderful controller. The TurboTouch 360 is the first significant technology breakthrough in video games in the last 4 years. Now that is a heck of a statement. That is from a renowned video game editor at Cat's Kunkel Whirly Inc. Yeah, he's renowned. Next up, this is the greatest controller I've ever used. It puts me in the game and makes me a participant in the action. Which is funny because that's what all video games do. Anyway, I'm getting higher scores than I ever have. And that's the selling point. Your scores are going to be higher. So that's from one of the semifinalists from the Nintendo World Championship. So again, just like Thor, like all of these guys are getting real good jobs pimping out stuff for money. Next up, this is from a doctor, a real doctor, as I'm sure you'll be able to tell. I'm tired of treating teenagers for thumb injuries caused by playing video games. He's got a line around the block from those Nintendo thumb kids, the Nintendinitis. That's what they called it, Nintendinitis. That's a good one. Your new product should be considered a blessing to game players, parents, and doctors alike. I salute you. He salutes you. Good job. I'm saluting everyone right now. You can't see it, but believe me, I'm saluting you right now. And if you can't afford a brand new controller to cure you of your Nintendinitis, you can at least get a padded thumb glove it's got better grip, awesome control, and a hot look, as they say. You're probably going to want to wear these every single day because neon green, pink, yellow, and orange look awesome. I mean, well, they probably did in 1992. They've even got Batman-themed ones because, obviously, Batman, he probably wears a set of these neon green ones when he's hanging out in his Batcave and playing games on his 19-inch CRT with his Sega Genesis. And if you need to protect your Game Boy from dropping it from a height of, I can only assume, about 1,000 feet, get this big, giant monstrosity of a rubber device to go over your Game Boy, making it slightly bigger and apparently a whole lot sturdier. You'd have to drop that from the moon. No, wait. Now, the accessories for the Game Boy are already lots of fun to begin with. Let's face it, they got batteries, they got lights, they got magnifying glasses, they got speakers, just look at the picture. There's just all kinds of stuff coming off of the thing. It looks like Inspector Gadget. And the best part about this is that the products are made by a company called STD. STD. And the top of the ad is, you're into it. Get into it with an STD. When you buy the best, winning is in your hands. Brought to you by the world of STD. It's a name you can trust. STD. Get it for yourself. Give it to your friends. This Christmas, give everyone an STD. All right, back to the games and some box art and all kinds of fun stuff. So this is Taito, and they're advertising a whole slew of products with a guy on a surfboard has encephalitis, apparently. I mean, it's great that he's still able to surf, but his head probably weighs about 85 pounds. but he is having a lot better time of it than this poor little kid whose genitals are on fire because there are flames shooting into his area from the television. That looks uncomfortable. He's got a big smile on his face. He's got a creepy look on his face, and his genitals are on fire. So I really don't know how you would normally look when that's happening, but Taito has captured it. Gun Force, where there's a nuclear explosion in the background. So right off, they're having a good time. And in the foreground, we have these two robots, or maybe guys in suits, so they got visors. And the guy on the left is sort of shooting off kind of diagonally into the air, and the guy behind him looks like he's just firing in random directions. Like one gun is just firing into the ground, and the other one is firing off into the air. They're not really doing any good. I mean, if they're nuking the whole place anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. Shatterhand, which is a pretty fun game. It's just got some really interesting box art. And according to the ad here, you have the power of 100 strategic missiles in each punch. Now I've played the game. I mean, when you punch guys, they do go flying back. But, I mean, 100 missiles, I would think, would just obliterate everything. Like, when you punch them, everything would just explode. So you do punch hard, and sure, guys explode. You're fighting like robot guys, but I don't think you have quite the power of 100 strategic missiles, or even non-strategic missiles. I'm not really sure that makes a difference. And the ad also says that you get to battle treacherous metallic cyborgs, which is good because, your cyborgs should be made of metal, or at least partially made of metal. They wouldn't be very treacherous if they were made out of styrofoam. Next up, we have a very cheery-looking Hunchback. This is Super Hunchback on the Game Boy. Everybody's smiling. The princess is up there. She's super happy. And the tower, and then like this villain in the background of the hood, he's also got a big smile on his face. The guard by the door has got a smile. Now, the guy is sort of sniffing the Hunchback's area down there, he doesn't look too happy. He looks like he's about to pass out. And, of course, the slogan here is, "Ever have a hunch? You could be a hero? Huh? Get it? A hunch? Like, ha ha ha, you're deformed. Let's go be a hero. You're awesome." They don't make very many Elephant Man games. I've noticed that. And next we have Cosmic Fantasy 2, which has artwork that I'm just going to go ahead and call amazing. It's amazing if it is an album cover that's drawn by somebody in junior high. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Go buy yourselves a TurboGrafx, kids. TurboGrafx CD. You won't believe the amazing... They could at least put a screenshot in here, because otherwise you're going to be like, I'm not playing this game. And speaking of artwork, we have Power Moves, which, the top section of the ad is it's a little cartoony, and it looks like the guy just punched the other guy in the face with a bottle of mayonnaise. I'm actually not sure something is spraying upside that guy's face, and I have no idea what it is. But what makes this ad super amazing is that the screenshots in the lower right-hand corner are not screenshots. They're hand-drawn. Now, this actually happened quite a bit back in the days. They wouldn't have the screenshots ready when they went to the ad, so they would have to fake the screenshots, but they usually faked the screenshots in a way that made them look like they were taken from the game. They drew like little pixel art and stuff like that. This is just somebody drawing the art in the game. The advertising, it says it has dimensional screens and high quality graphics and special sound and video effects, but they're advertising all the stuff, and then they're showing you things that aren't even from the game. I don't know who's looking at that going, wow, those graphics are amazing. Somebody might have been a little disappointed. Now we have a set of Burma Shave type ads. So down in the lower quarter of the page, for 4 pages in a row, are ads from Technos for this bowling game. They're steeped in alliteration as well. So you've got Sammy snags a spare, Flow, floors, the final frame. I know they just put that in there, so I would have a hard time reading it. Tina tips the 10-pin. Nice shorts, Tina. And Gus gags and gutters it. Poor Gus. Another interesting thing you had to contend with back in the day was the lack of internet. And so you have ads like this. So this is for Tecmo Super Bowl, which is, one of the most popular football games of the day. But down at the bottom, you have a little cutout, and it says, please rush me the special advanced specifications on Tecmo Super Bowl and a list of stores where I can get Tecmo Super Bowl. So even you're like, I want to go buy this game. How do I do it? Well, I'm going to mail the company a little slip of paper, and they're going to tell me what the game is and where I can get it. And no 16-bit era game advertising would be complete without some innuendo and just general dirty jokes. So we're going to start off with this advertisement for Test Drive the Duel, which says, when you race with the Duel, it's advisable to carry a spare. And then they have a picture of some underwear laying there. So they're saying, this game is so good that you will crap your pants. Prepare to fill your underwear with hot steamy poo. Play our game. Next up, we have a soccer game, World Trophy Soccer, which just says kick some balls. And somewhere there was a marketing guy that's just been waiting years to be able to put that into an ad. And then it's kick some balls, and then there's the soccer ball, and then just because the way the artwork is done, your eye is sort of just drawn right into the region there, and it says kick some balls, and then you're looking at the ball, and your eyes maybe, or they dart over, and you shouldn't be looking there. It's dirty. Next up, we have an ad for Thunder Spirits, which has two tiny little screenshots down in the corner, and then some guy with a ginormous head who says, hurl through space. He's like, hey, dude, Thunder Spirits is awesome, but I'm going to throw up right now. I'm just going to vomit because I'm in space and throwing up because hurl through space. Anyway, that's what the joke is. Vomit and hurling through space. Next up, we have Magic Sword. And this one is take a stab in the dark. Which, actually that one might not be dirty. Maybe I'm just overthinking that one. It could be. This next one, yeah, I know what they're going for here. Shift happens. Yep. Shift happens. Next one is get a monster bone. Yay, monster bone. Good for you. Then we've got Far Out, which isn't dirty, but it just further illustrates how terrible the marketing campaign is for Phalanx. It has box art which tells you absolutely nothing about what the game is, unless you think the game is about a guy playing a banjo, which it's not. I'll let you know that. And then it just says Far Out, and there are no screenshots anywhere. There's nothing that tells you what this game is. So hurry to the store, kids, and buy this game. It's the best banjo playing shmup you have ever seen. Next up is another racing game. This time, instead of Shift Happens, you are going to give yourself skid marks. So once again, we just can't stop talking about how much our games are going to make you poop yourself. They're just that good. Next up is Get 'em by the Crosshairs. See? Use your super scope and something about pubes. We'll get to that point in there. X Zone. Get 'em by the Crosshairs. Now we have the advertising for Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. And this one, I'm not sure if this is purposely insulting, but they're saying, hey, there's this new role-playing game coming out. And with this ad, it's a cow. He's looking right at you, or it's a cow. I think it's a cow. It says, even the farm animals know something's coming. So it's like, even you're too dumb to know about Final Fantasy, but even the animals know that there's a game that's coming for people who are not very good at RPGs. I think that's what this ad says. Anyway, it seems pretty insulting. The cow's got really nice hair, though. I think that might be a toupee. And then when the game finally does come out, of course, it's $39.99. We talked about that one before, and it says brain transplant, $39.99. Which again, I think that's meant to be slightly offensive. Like, hey, you're not smart enough to play a real game, so you need a brain transplant. Here's Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that sort of seems like what they're doing. One thing that's changed quite a bit over the years is the sheer number of consoles that are available to you at any given time. Now, you look back and you go, okay, well, the Atari 2600 was sort of the king of its generation, and then you had the NES, and then the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and as you go forward, there's a handful of name systems, like the ones that everybody had. But there were loads and loads of systems. Like gaming in the late 70s, there was everything. There were dedicated Pong systems, and there was the Magnavox Odyssey, and there was just like a whole bunch of things. And then, the Atari 2600 came around, and there was the ColecoVision and the Intellivision, but that wasn't it. There was even more systems out there. And every now and again, some new thing comes along. Like, you remember the Gamecom? Like, somebody comes along and goes, hey, we're going to be the next thing, and, we're going to replace the Game Boy, or we're going to be the next big system. And these systems come out, and they're available for like a year or two, and they disappear under the crushing weight of the big names on the market. So this one is a system, a handheld system called the Gamate. Okay, it's probably Game Mate, but it says, for those who have yet to experience the ultimate handheld entertainment, we'd like to shake your hands. And I'm assuming there's not actually rumble ability. I'm not sure I don't think the thing shakes. Maybe it gives you like mild electric shocks because there is a lightning bolt coming down. And here's a warning sign right here. The game comes with a 4-in-1 cartridge. So you got Brick Blaster, sounds like Breakout, Mini Golf, Cube Up, and Vindicators. So you get a 4-in-1 cartridge, and this company, Alston, makers of the Gamate, they made a bunch of things. So they made some dedicated controllers. So they have the Super JoJo controller for the Super Nintendo, and apparently they had a bunch of games. They had over 50 games available for this handheld system, and the games each cost $15.95, not a penny more, according to the advertising. One of the major handhelds that was available at the time was the Sega Game Gear, and Sega had this marketing campaign, this welcome to the next level, that they used to advertise the Game Gear and the Genesis and the Sega CD. And the print ads they had were, they were considered to be kind of edgy at the time. And so we got this one here with this lady, and she's got her big puckering lips ready to go, and it says, how to get some free Game Gear software without kissing any more butt. And so the deal is you could send in your proof of purchase from your Game Gear along with some money for shipping and handling, and you could get Shinobi, Columns, Chessmaster, Solitaire Poker, World Class Leaderboard Golf, or G-Lock by filling out this little form and mailing it in. There were also a lot of ads that Sega had that just directly attacked Nintendo, and one of the big things they had going for them with the Sega Genesis was that they released well in advance of the Super Nintendo. So by the time the Super Nintendo came out, there was a huge library of Genesis games. So in this ad, they've got a big old stack of Genesis games, and they got the Super Nintendo with its small library down there, and the ad is, the other guys just don't stack up. Of course, it wasn't long before Nintendo had a stack just as big as theirs. The Atari Lynx is another oddity of handheld platformerdom. Back in the day, the Game Boy was the biggest thing out. Nobody could figure out, like no other companies could figure out how to go up against the Game Boy, because they were putting out superior hardware. They got color screens, they got, higher end, 16-bit graphics and all this sort of stuff. And the Game Boy just keeps beating the crap out of everything that comes along. And the Lynx, it had the biggest screen you could possibly get, and 4,000 colors. And, it chewed up batteries in a hurry. Plus, it didn't have a great game library because it never really took off. Also available at the time was the Neo Geo. You were a full-on hardcore gamer if you owned a Neo Geo. You also had a lot more money than the kids in my neighborhood, because I didn't know anybody that had a Neo Geo growing up, because the things cost $650 just for the system. Here you've got a coupon that lets you get $100 off, so you can get a system for $550. But the games are still, even with the coupon, they're $150 a piece. Here's another piece of Sega marketing. So we've got this guy here. This is Scott Bayless, and he worked for Sega at the time that the Sega CD came out. It says, believe it or not, the brains behind Sega CD don't wear pocket protectors or glasses held together with tape. Those guys work for our competitors. So they're basically saying, hey, Nintendo are geeks, and we are not. Of course, here again, things are sort of flipped. So these days, you would probably want the geeks. Those are the guys that are making all the good stuff, and these are this guy with his jacket, and he looks, he's a lazy bum. They asked this guy, and he's a real guy, about some of his favorite games, and he's talking about how interactive Night Trap is, because you can interact with live action stuff. And they ask him what his personal favorite Sega CD game is, and his favorite game is the NXS Make Your Own Music Video game. So that guy has a lot of cred, obviously. So that is everything we have for you this episode, but we did run into a little problem. I told you that I wasn't really worried about screwing up the space-time continuum. It was all going to be fine. We might have made just a minor miscalculation. I'm going to get it straightened out. It's all going to be fine.
But I think he knows where we are. I think he tracked us down. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Just don't worry. As long as we're in here, I don't think you can find us in here. Oh crap.